He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High, who abides in the shadow of the Almighty, will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. Now you know where I stole the opening statement from, or at least half of it. My refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. Anybody having trouble trusting God? Implicitly, right? All the time. No matter what happens. Trust. My God in whom I trust. I wonder, can I trust you? Can I trust you to love me? Can I trust you to support me? Can I trust you to be my friend? Can I trust you not to hurt me? I think the answer to our trust goes back for many of us a long, long way. Hi. Do I know you? Do you want to be my friend? Oh, I'm not supposed to talk to strangers. I made a friend today. We had such a wonderful time, and I gave him one of my favorite toys. Well, I think he'll give it back. I trust him. You mean I shouldn't? I met a girl today. She is the most beautiful girl in the world. And the more I'm with her, the more I want to be with her. I think I'm in love. Well, that's what I feel. You mean I can't trust what I feel? I was looking for a new car today. I looked at several, and actually I looked at everything that was available. I checked prices, and I checked car reviews, and I found this car. I really like it. I think it's... You don't like it? But I think I can't trust what I think. We've been married 5 years. You went out last night. Where were you? How can I trust you? I think these things go back a long way. I think a lot of us have been taught not to trust. If you can't trust the people who are supposed to love you, and if they teach you you can't trust what you think, you can't trust what you feel, don't trust strangers, who in the world can you trust? To trust is to have confidence in. Now, the Bible uses some other words sometimes. To believe in, to have faith in. And we've been taught you can't trust what you think, you can't trust what you feel, you can't trust other people. Can you trust your kids? Who knows what they might do? When you have trust in someone or something, you've experienced it in your life. Something happens. Something changes. Energy flows. It's as if you've completed a circuit. Things begin to happen when you trust. Things begin to move. You begin to move. things begin to change. Remember that young love? How you trusted another person to tell you the truth when they said, I love you. I care about you. I want to spend my life with you. And things began to happen. Great things. Beautiful things. Energy began to move, and you had feelings. When you trusted your judgment about something, you began to move and you began to do something. Trust completes a circuit. It allows that energy of the universe, energy of God, to flow. And then we went to church and we began to hear, trust God, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. And this presents a dilemma. If we've been taught you can't trust strangers, can't trust what you think, you can't trust what you feel, you can't trust God with skin on, called human beings, how can you trust God? I said, we were taught we can't trust strangers. Is there anyone stranger than God? Apparently moves in mysterious ways, is invisible, can't touch it, and yet we're supposed to trust? Sometimes we do trust, and sometimes in amazing things. I trust when I get in my car, put the key in the ignition, boom. What am I going to trust? That it's going to start. You better believe it. And I trust every time I turn on that left faucet on the sink. You know which one that is, right? You get hot water. I trust it. I trust it implicitly. I never worry about it. I never hesitate thinking, was it going to flush the toilet? That only happens in the cartoons, right? It's going to do what it's supposed to do. I trust something invisible and intangible, that principle that's behind that faucet, that principle of the ignition of my car, that it's going to work. Some time ago, I was out with somebody we were in a shopping center, and she said, there's something here I'd like to get, but I don't have enough money with me. Can you help me? Well, I happen to have the checkbook, my checkbook, with me. And I looked in it, and I said, yes, I can do that. I trusted the numbers on the page. I trust the principle of mathematics that, if you put the numbers together correctly, you've got a valid number of what's available to you. I trusted that. The Fillmores, at one point in the early days of Unity, they wrote a dedication and covenant. When I told my minister in Cincinnati that I'd been accepted to ministerial school, he said, well, you'll have your covenant and everything will be fine. Oh, what's a covenant? What's he talking about? I had to go look as soon as I got home, and I found in one of the books a copy of the Fillmore Dedication and Covenant. We dedicate ourselves and all that we have to the Spirit of truth. And they also believe that for this dedication, said Spirit of truth would supply an equal amount of peace of mind, health of body, love, life, wisdom, understanding, and all things necessary to fulfill every want without making those wants the reason for their existence. That's a lot of trust, isn't it? In researching the covenant, I found that traditionally in covenants there are two parts. What the first party of the first part will do, and what the party of the second part will do. So there's something to do for both of them. The Fillmores agreed that they would put their life into this work. But they trusted God, the Spirit of truth, to supply everything necessary so that they could put their lives into this work. That then, by doing the work, the needs were met. And I love that line, without making these needs the object of our existence. How many of us make getting our needs met the object of our existence? Working hard, struggling to make a buck, to pay the rent, to do all of these things. And that's not the way it ought to be. They trusted in something greater than themselves. And without trust, that connection is not made. Without trust, the energy doesn't flow. The negative and the positive poles do not connect and cause that spiritual God energy to flow into them and into their lives and cause things to happen. Good things, beautiful things. God can't work in us and through us, through our lives, if we don't trust it to do that. Emily Cady, who wrote our first actual textbook, Lessons in Truth, said that we are not automatons, robots. We have free will and the will to choose what we think, what we believe, what we will do, what we will have faith in. And God honors that free will. I've said many times, there's no coercion in spirituality. God doesn't force us to do things. Sometimes we get awfully tired of beating our noses against a wall when we work against spiritual principle or spiritual law. You know, you can fight with gravity all you want, but you'll never win. When you're flying an airplane, one of the things I learned early on from one of my instructors was that the airplane knows how to fly better than most student pilots. You get into trouble, one of the best things you can do is let go of it. The plane knows what to do. It will recover in a lot of cases. Because sometimes we're trying to force it into some direction that right then it's not ready to do, not a place it's not ready to go. Some of you may remember or read Emmett Fox. Still too bad we never ordained him and had him as part of our organization. Yes, yeah, because he certainly was unlimited, wasn't he? What a wonderful teacher Emmett Fox was. And I got something from Emmett Fox once that was very important. He said, you want to see what you believe in, then look at your life. It's what you have faith in. It's what you trust. And what you trust, you do. You follow. You open your life, yourself up to it. We do what we believe. How often I hear, oh, last week I had a pain down here. Last night Sue and I were out to dinner, and She had a little conversation with somebody sitting in the seat while she was waiting for me. And the person talked about her aches and her pains. Is that what we believe in? Do we have to claim those things? Jesus said, "Let not your hearts be troubled." Yet how often are our hearts troubled? How often are we afraid? We're afraid of our bodies. We're afraid of our lives. You ever been afraid to live? To really live? I had a time once where I was trying to save my life. And I found I wasn't living. And I realized the only thing I could do with my life was live it. Otherwise, that time was lost, was wasted. And we're afraid of one another. We're afraid of what might happen to us. We're afraid to do something because what if we fail? Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe. Believe in God, but even more, in addition to believe in God, trust in me, Jesus said. Believe in the source of all, the Father of all, the Creator of all, but also believe in that Spirit of God that's implanted in you, that is at work all the time, that cannot abandon you at any time. And it's always there, ready to guide, to guard. One of my favorite teachers in ministerial school, Ed Rabel, he gave each of the members of my class a beautiful gift. He had somebody print up little business card size, a little statement, and laminated. I still cherish that. You are under divine guidance and divine protection. Isn't that something to know and realize and then trust that you're under divine guidance and you're under divine protection? Yes, believe in God the Father, but believe also in God the Son, individualized in you. The Christ of God in you, that power of God, intelligence of God at work in you. Believe in that Son of God in you in every area of your life. This power, this presence is everywhere, at all times, all places. It's in your body. It's in your finances. It's in your relationships. It's in your heart and your feelings. It's there, ready to make its presence known, ready to do its work in you and through you. Wherever you go, whatever you experience, the presence is there. Trust in God. Trust also in this presence and power, the Christ within you. We call it the image likeness of God. God said, "Let us make man in our image after our likeness." God is in your life, whether you like it or not. But how much God can do in your life through you is up to you. Trust. Trust. Sometimes it takes a little practice. It's up to us to develop that trust. And in order to begin to trust, first you must be willing. Take a risk. I wonder, how long do you think Charles and Myrtle worked over those words of that covenant? How they would dedicate their lives, all that they had and all that they expected to have, to the work of the Spirit of truth. That's a big commitment. Now, if they really believed in this covenant, they would not take any part of it lightly. They wouldn't make frivolous promises, because frivolous promises are going to result in what? The other half of it's not going to work either. Then we expect the such and such and such. I believe they took that extremely seriously. That was actually found in their papers after the passing. After finally learned what that covenant was. Yeah, you'll have your covenant, you'll be fine, Frank Hansen said, my minister at the time in Cincinnati, and I had no idea what he was talking about. But after I found out, I thought hard and long, and this is before I even came to ministerial school. I had I had 2.5 months or so yet before I came to school. So as I thought about it, I decided I needed to do that. And I had this, what I considered a precious piece of paper. In my life, it's one of a kind. In the early 70s, when I was in Holland with my family, we went to an open-air museum where they had buildings from all different periods of Holland's history, windmills, and they had this water-powered mill that made paper. Well, it made paper out of linen rags. And it had a mill on it as a watermark. Oh, it was a sheet of paper about this big. You couldn't buy it. They did not sell it to the public. My father had once been a politician, so he kind of talked to the guy who was running the mill, who did the tour of it and showed us how he made paper. And after everybody was gone, my dad said, could I get a piece of that paper from you? I don't know. He probably had some money in his hand and said, you can get yourself a beer or something. Anyway, my father came out of the mill with a piece of paper. I can't replace it. In 1980, I sat at my kitchen table with a bottle of India ink and a, dipping pen. And I wrote my dedication and covenant on that piece of paper because I cherished that piece of paper. I considered it something special. And I wrote that out very carefully. India ink, you don't make mistakes. And I signed it. And I still have it. And periodically I need to remind myself that I made that covenant. And the first thing is I must fulfill that covenant and then expect. And folks, I've been divinely guided, thank you, Ed Rabel, and divinely protected in so many ways. And not just since ministerial school, but so many times in my life. I've always had a sense of trust in something, and it's not been people. People in my young years taught me not to trust them. So I had to trust something else. Believe in God. Believe also in me, that Christ in you. There are opportunities to grow all the time. And sometimes growth hurts. Remember adolescence. That could be Tough time for many of us. But to know that in this growth we call life, God is always there, always with you, always ready to provide, to guide, to do good through you. We have to remember it's there. We have to say, yes, Lord. Take my life and let it be dedicated all to thee. The piece of music that we played earlier, the lyrics, trust in the Lord, lean not on your own understanding. How much of this world requires that we look from a higher level of awareness, from an awareness of the presence and power of God at work in this world, instead of looking with our human eyes at the appearances and making hard judgments about the nature of life, the lack of good, the lack of love. I learned very early in metaphysics, one doesn't fix a problem, doesn't fix a lack by looking at the problem from the same level that caused the problem. Same level of thinking. We have to rise above it to a higher level. Did you ever go to a petting zoo? Oh, I had an opportunity. It's just once in my life. I was at a petting zoo, and if my memory serves, it was in the 80s at the Renaissance Festival. And I saw this brown bear. And was presented with the opportunity to come up and meet the brown bear and pet the brown bear. Okay. Trust in God, right? But what about the brown bear? I approached cautiously, and the first touch was tentative. And then, as I actually put my hand on the bear, I was holding a cup of coffee. And the next thing you know, the bear's muzzle is in my coffee, drinking my coffee. We became friends. He was having a drink with me. How relaxed was he for that? When you dare touch that presence of God within you. With God, I can do all things. I can trust God's action in me. So those words I got from Ed Rabel, let those hang in your mind. You are under divine guidance and divine protection. But you have to trust it. Trust. As you start to trust, you have success, and energy flows, and it gets better. Remember that young love? And you trusted, and beautiful things happened because you let the energy flow, you let the circuit connect.